Here at Monza, the teams are getting ready to head back out on circuit in the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup. It has been a day for hot weather, high temperatures, and this morning we had a free practice period. We've now got the pre-qualifying session coming up, and this again doesn't affect the grid, but it does give the teams another opportunity to work through a program to get their drivers more familiar, more satisfied, if you like, with the circuit, with the cars, with GT racing in some cases if they're new to the discipline, and it will give us a chance as well to see whether or not anybody can go quicker than Michael Bronizeski and Alessandro Pierguidi, who were the fastest drivers this morning in their Ferrari 488. David Addison and John Watson trackside. The session just slightly delayed, so we're going to be starting in about 4 minutes time now, looking at the clock. But for the teams, John, they've not had a huge amount of activity to do today because thankfully most cars got through free practice without real drama.
I think what we're going to see in this 1.5 hour session is, in the case of probably the front running teams, minimal running.
Right.
Primarily because they will want to hold back the new sets of tyres they have. They will have probably 4 sets remaining. They want to have a new set for each of the 3 qualifying segments tomorrow morning, plus 1 new set for maybe the final stint in the 3-hour race tomorrow. And of course, we're now local time just after 5 o'clock in the evening. Temperatures are just about peaking out, but when we go into qualifying tomorrow morning, we start at 9:45. Temperatures are going to be probably 10, maybe 12 Celsius lower than they are now. So what they're doing now will only relate to the race tomorrow, have very little to do with qualifying whatsoever. So a lot of homework, maybe pit stop practice, maybe going through a variety of options. It does appear that some cars, for example, might be a little bit more economical than some others, so those will be able to work out what their economy is likely to be. So it's going to be a lot of homework, a lot of preparation, rather than looking for ultimate out-and-out speed.
And just that point you make about track temperatures, track conditions, time of day, this time tomorrow we'll be into the last hour of the race. So this is what they can expect for the final third of the race.
Yes, but of course, what happens after qualifying will have a pretty big determination on where everybody starts. And by the time you go through the first 1 hour, through the second hour, by the time you get into the third hour, ordinarily the race has developed into a pattern. Now, we have seen in the past that this race goes down to the checkered flag, and that may well be what happens tomorrow afternoon. But a lot of that will be the beneficiary, if you like, of what teams will do here today. Say fuel consumption is an issue for some teams more than others. Tyre condition, tyre wear, tyre degradation, possibly brakes, because this is a big brake circuit. You've got 4 parts of the circuit where you're braking from really high speed, particularly the first 2 chicanes, the Ascari chicane, not quite so bad. And then you come down the back straight into Parabolica, 175, 180 miles an hour, hard on the brakes. So the brakes get a good workout. And then, of course, you come along pit straight. They do get cooled down as you come up to the first chicane, but a very heavy braking zone. So really, principally, the teams that I would assume will dominate qualifying will be the ones that will be doing the least kind of running in terms of maybe finding extra time. They know where they are. It will be maybe in the Pro-Am or the Silver Cup or the Am, where they will be doing more work to give their drivers more track time and more comfort, and just to gain that little bit of confidence that is so important when you go into a race, a quality of field such as we got here this weekend.
So the session is 90 minutes long, and it will start in 20 seconds time. We've had a bit of a delay because quite a few incidents in the previous race that was running late anyway because of safety cars and full course at yellows, and then an accident at the Parabolica that brought out a red flag, and there'd already been one on that lap at the Variante Ascari. So lots of cars to be removed, but also lots of bits of debris. So a few more minutes taken by the circuit staff just to get the track clear. Green flag, we are in business.
So 1.5 hours, and let's see if I can be proven correct or proven incorrect as to what the outcome is going to be. But if we take as a benchmark what we saw earlier in the morning, Alessandro Pierguidi, as David, you pointed out, was quickest overall at 148.667. That was on a new, or certainly a very fresh set of tyres, and that would have been the set of tyres that they would have continued through that session with. They will probably start on the best of the rest of what they have in the pit box and hold back for that qualifying. And we've got a revision in qualifying this year across the board. Blancpain Sprint has got a different style of qualifying to Blancpain Endurance. So each driver will have a qualifying sector, but the amalgamation of the times of all three, or in the case of two drivers, will determine the start position. So you have to assume it's going to be people like the number 8 Bentley or other of the pro cars that are going to be really the lead cars at the front of the grid. And in many senses that may help alleviate what we saw here last year, where we had this incident, whether it was caused by Guy Smith, that's a debate that Guy will have until the cars come home, whether it was Ezekiel Perez Compact who got slightly offline, caught the grass, car turned sharp right. You know, you can say whose fault it was, who you think it was. The bottom line is it was a messy start that led to the race being restarted, but there was a lot of damage to many cars, which is not what we want to see. I believe this new start procedure will improve starts and see fewer incidents, either going into turn 1 or in turn 1 itself.
Yeah, because what you're doing is adding the 3 times together, doing an average of those 3, so it compensates for a very quick pro or a not so quick am, and you get the average between them, and therefore people are starting where they should be. You're not the 34th fastest driver starting on the front row thanks to your co-driver.
Ironically, the pressure is going to be on the AMs more than ever.
Yeah.
Because the AMs are going to have to really go out in their session and deliver the goods, deliver a time. Because if they don't do so, then their car will be further down the grid. So while the pro will go out and do whatever he needs to do, it's now going to be in the hands of the 2 AMs to ensure that they actually max out whatever they get in terms of car setup, tyre availability or whatever. So interesting to see how the AMs respond to this kind of pressure, which they've not really had previously in endurance events.
And also, if you're a 2-driver entry now, the lower graded driver must do 2 stints, 2 hours effectively, and it's 60 minutes, so 5 minutes less than last year for the pros. If you take Duncan Cameron and Matt Griffin has got 5 minutes less time in which he can make a difference. But that said, Duncan Cameron's a quick am, so we'll see how it pans out.
And Matt Griffin said to me earlier on in the paddock, well, we haven't quite got the car into that sweet spot. He couldn't tell me precisely what it was, but he made it sound to me as if the car was a bit, wow, this is not comfortable. Right. And normally a 488 is a great customer car for private entrants in particular.
An AF Corsa that runs it, the top team there. Let's start looking at some of the key cars, key driver combinations. 88 is a potential winner. There are lots of those, by the way. Tristan Vertier, Daniel Junqueira and Raffaele Marciello. Marciello was a winner in Asia last weekend. It's Tristan Vertier behind the wheel for this session, and that is going to be a quick car with a personal best and an absolute best. I mean, everyone's doing personal best, but it's the absolute bests that are more relevant at the moment. It's coming up towards the timing line, that car. We'll go.
Oh, that's a good start. A wheel and tyre. I think it is a wheel and tyre. And that looks suspiciously like, well, I think it's a Lamborghini wheel, I'm not sure. But whatever it is, it has detached itself. And is that up again? It is up against the pit wall.
Yeah. You can actually see it out of our window.
Yeah, I can just see it on screen. There's that black symbol just at between the racetrack and that dark green pit wall. So there, it was a Ferrari. Well, well, well.
488.
One of the Rinaldi cars.
Yeah. Rick Hume, Pierre-Éric, Rory Pentinen's car. Pierre-Éric shown as being behind the wheel. So, is that a breakage or is that finger trouble that somebody didn't fasten it? There's a very brave Marshall who has gone to get, there he is, with his gloves on, and he's rolling the Hot Wheel down the pit straight as 488 Ferrari limps on 3 wheels. I was going to tell you it was a Pirelli tyre, that much I could identify.
Well, I wonder where the nut, apart from...
in the pit road.
Whatever.
Yes.
And we just get a Marshall standing in front of the camera, and we're about to see the 63 Lamborghini, Luca Bortolotti, Christian Engelhardt. Well, everybody's back. The track has gone green again in the very short time that wheel was recovered.
A 78, one of the Barwell Motorsports Lamborghinis. That car for Michele Beretta, Sandy Mitchell and Martin Kodrich. Kodrich, Lamborghini Super Trofeo racer, and races now in the Blancpain GT Series Asia, as well as in British GT. And Sandy Mitchell up from F4 or BRDC F4 Championship, got the MSA, the FIA spec cars into GT4 and now into GT3. And somebody else that is very highly regarded brings the Curie Cos Black Bull sponsorship to the car. There's over the timing line now.
Yeah, I mean a lap time 154.150, utterly irrelevant in terms of the overall scheme of things that we will expect to see tomorrow morning, or we have seen over the weekend. But that is in effect its first flying lap, and it's been a slightly messy start because of the wheel coming off the Ferrari. Everybody just about trying to build up speed and then having to back out of it again, then refire it all up.
So fastest is the Wrighty Youngstars car, the Lamborghini, Leonard Marianich, Mads Siljehaug and Patrick Niederhauser. Niederhauser at the wheel. He was a winner, but in a Mercedes for Gruppe M in Blancpain GT Series Asia last weekend. And his co-driver from that, Nico Bastian, is in this entry as well. We've also got an absolute best in the middle sector now, being done by number 66, Stein Schrotthorst, and goes third fastest at the end of the lap. Stein Schrotthorst at 150.637 is at the moment the benchmark, but it was a 48.6 in cooler conditions this morning.
Yeah, I mean the temperatures are high. People will be on the tyre that they would have finished that session on. So unless the team really is in dire straits and they have to go back to basics and start almost with a brand new set of tyres to determine what is the truth around the problems we're dealing with, then it's going to be people running almost the rubber out and just going through the various sets that they've got available to them. As the Ferrari comes in, it made its way back into the pits, and very rare to see a Ferrari throwing a wheel.
And at the end of a lap as well, I mean, you'd have thought that if it was finger trouble, hypothetical finger trouble, it would have parted company in the first 2 or 3 corners, wouldn't you?
Well, if that wheel tire came off, it must have come off somewhere around about here.
Exactly.
Because you're doing 135, 40 miles an hour, and it ended up midway down the pits, just on the track side. And I don't know.
At the end of a lap, you know, he stayed on for a lap virtually, and then parts company.
The driver would have been aware that there was something. He may have been trying to come into the pits, to be truthful, because he would have been aware there was something wrong. He may not have known that the wheel was about to detach itself. But it looks like wherever the wheel ended up, fortunately it stayed on the track side rather than getting into the pit lane.
43 Stracker Mercedes we're looking at, and this is a car in a big hurry. It is Alvaro Parent at the wheel. Alvaro Parent at the wheel of a Mercedes, not a McLaren.
Well, it's a long story, as is the McLaren story, and undoubtedly in time it will come out. But Alvaro Parent found himself basically because of changes that are occurring within the previous operator and McLaren group. So he found himself surplus to requirements, which is a terrible thing to say. Overall quickest sector 2. But there we are on board with Alvaro Parent, and I'm sure he is reveling in driving the Mercedes-AMG GT3, a car which is almost diametrically opposed in terms of the way it responds to its inputs and really how it treats its driver. The McLaren has always been a car that was, if you find the sweet spot, very effective. It was a problem sometimes, and a lot of it seemed to stem from around the instability at the rear. The new Pirelli tyre will help that, but it'll help everybody. But Alvaro Parent behind the wheel of the Mercedes comes across the line and goes quickest, and a 149.282.
But not for long, because he did a 49.401. The 49.282 was done by the next car through, and that was the Michele Beretta number 78 Barwell Lamborghini. We've been looking at that car and talking about Sandy Mitchell. Michele Beretta is all loaded here, isn't he? And he has shot to the top of the times. Beretta 149.282.
Pretty good at this stage, and I mean Barwell would be very pleased.
Yeah,
I think with the performance.
And don't forget that's a Pro-Am car as well.
Absolutely.
So Mark Lever's happy squad. Doing a good job. Patrick Niederhauser, who was fastest as pitted. Nicholas Pola there in 55, coming down towards the first chicane. Sorry, I said that was a Pro-Am car. It's a Silver Cup car, Beretta's Lamborghini, which is another new aspect this year, isn't it, to try and get the silver grade drivers together for an extra competition.
I like when I was just watching the session before this, the Blancpain GT Sports Club, that they've got different materials for different ages.
Yes, there's the Iron Cup for the over 60s, the Titanium Cup for the 50 to 59-year-olds.
Well, what type of cup is there for the over 70s TV commentators?
What would you like to be?
Well, I mean, something valuable and precious.
Oh,
don't say uranium.
A diamond? No.
No, that goes with geezer too much for me.
I was going to say, yes, you're dying geezer. When you return to racing in the Blancpain GT Sports Club, there'll be a special, it'll be Watsonite. It'll be the new metal created for you. Have a look at these Porsches, because it's good to have them on the grid, and we spoke in free practice about the Mantide car, which has Frederic Makovici, Romain Dumas, Le Mans winner, and Dirk Werner as three absolute star drivers. That's the bright yellow one. The bright green one, which also draws attention to itself, is the Precoat Herberth Motorsport car of Jürgen Hering, Edvard Louis Brauner, and Wolfgang Triller. Hering and Brauner have just been in the previous race, the GT Sports Club, and Hering was tagged into a spin.
Just at this part, there was a done in chicane.
So you've got Michele Beretta, the fastest, ahead of Alvaro Perret. Third is Rui Aguas, the experienced Portuguese driver, former class champion in the World Endurance Championship, and up to fifth has just gone Matt Griffin. So the green and white Ferrari is now flying. I mean, that's kind of what you expect. Matt Griffin's like one of those USB sticks. You plug him in and use him straight away. And there he is on the money right from the get-go, and goes fifth fastest on a 1 minute 50.271. So Duncan Cameron was given a lion's share of the driving this morning, and now Griff gets into it just to illustrate what the car is capable of, and whether he feels anything now needs doing to it, whether any adjustments are needed.
I think overnight they've done a good job in getting the car set up to work, because you don't just slot the time in like that when you've got a car that's not really a part of you. So whoever is responsible, probably I suspect with the experience that Matt Griffin has got, again, a factory-backed or supported Ferrari driver, and it's a kind of deal that Matt gets a mail or whatever, says go to Sebring, go to Monza, wherever it is. And normally it is with Duncan Cameron. Been a very good partnership, works very well.
Yes. He's an AF Corsa driver more than a Ferrari driver, but we did see him in a Mercedes, didn't we, at Paul Ricard last year? Because the call came and he said to AF Corsa, you're not using me, what do you think? And they said, go on, don't make a habit of it.
No, I would think, normally Ferrari are very protective of anything that's got a Ferrari association, so he was given a leave, a buy for that particular event.
So number 4 going through, Mauro Engel, winner twice of the FIA GT World Cup in Macau. That's the car that's fastest. Now Martin Kodrich has taken it over. Kodrich is another quick driver, the Estonian, Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Came out of single-seater racing, but it's in GT cars where he's making his name. He and Dennis Lin share a car in the Asian Championship, Blancpain Asia, go very strongly together. Led at Sepang a week ago in the first race. Through the traffic, there goes Perret. You can see him weaving his way past Henry Valkenhorst. And there's Kodrich behind. So notice the cars have the Lumirank display. The number is where they are in class, but you also see it flicks occasionally to the driver's name. So you'll see that there 001 means that fastest in the Silver Cup is Kodrich. Then it will flick back to his name. You get the short code for Martin Kodrich.
Well, Lamborghini on its way out of the second Esmo, and then this, well, I wouldn't say straight, it's actually a curve. Then under what is the bridge that forms part of the banked circuit here. Monza was, of course, it was a proper banked circuit and a road circuit in the 50s, and I think even as far to the early 60s, certainly in the 50s, was used to combine for, well, sports cars. And before that, the Monza-Apolis event, although I'm not sure if they used the full circuit or just the bank circuit. Anyway, it's an historic part of the Monza experience. Still there, great for photography. Modern cars have been driven around it, but it is bumpy. It is bumpy.
And it's terrifyingly steep, the banking, isn't it? Into the pit lane comes Martin Kodrich. There is 76 in the pit lane, which is the R Motorsports run. AF Racing entered Mathieu Bazilier, Jake Dennis, Nicky Tim, Aston. Of a new team, R Motorsport. Very understated livery.
Yeah, well, that sort of kind of paint scheme is sort of de rigueur. If you live in Knightsbridge and have got a very posh supercar. In the meantime, a less posh Jules Gougnot has, I'm just looking at TV, he was in 6th place, he's been dropped down to 7th because the 51 has just gone a little bit quicker. The Air Force Cameron Griffin car, so
yeah, Matt Griffin, well, change again, because Gougnon's been put back to
Gougnon's
fourth.
gone back up again to fourth in the Bentley number 7.
And he's new to Bentley. We're looking at 77. Let me just quickly tick this one off, because 77 is the other Barwell car of Adrian Amstutz, Leo Machitsky and Francisco Guedes. Adrian Amstutz back after his big accident at Spa last year.
Now, I was just going to ask you that very question, because it was a very unpleasant accident. And it's great to see him back, great to see him fit, competitive, and enjoying what he really loves to do.
But he and Leo Machitsky and Francisco Guedes have gone into the AM Cup, and that was really Adrian Amstutz's request, as I understand it. He was not reluctant to come back to racing, but was a bit hesitant. And when it was suggested, well, look, we've got 2 more AMs, how do you feel about doing an AM Cup season? Oh, yes, absolutely, because then I've got less pressure. I don't have to try and do the same lap times as the pro within the Pro-Am category. Yes, I'll do that. And he was quite happy to be in the AM Cup, where he's got a good chance of winning.
Well, I mean, I know the hesitation that you feel, because if you're out of a car, particularly, it needs to have a burn.
Yes, exactly right, yeah.
You know, there's always, your mind just starts to play games with you. The best thing you can do, it's the old story, you fall off your bicycle, the best thing you can do is get straight back on it again. In the case of Adrian Amstutz, he had to take time out to get the recovery that was required. The longer you're out, the more difficult sometimes it is to get back in again. But once you get back in again, all the feelings, the emotions, the vibrations, the sensations all come back, and actually all the bad memories that he might have of that unpleasant accident basically just disappear.
Yeah, indeed. And Mark Lever and his guys making him feel welcome again. Leo Machitsky's an old customer, and Francisco Guedes we saw in the AM Cup a few years ago, if you remember, Ferraris with Peter Manning. He was quite quick in that. So it should be a good combination of drivers for the AM category. In the background there, you've got Miro Konopka, ARC Bratislava, Mercedes running a bit wide. Towards us, though, comes the McLaren. Limited McLarens on the grid, but you have got the Andrew Watson, Ben Barnicoat, Coleman Edegard car. 22 is the older 2015 style. This out of Jordan Witt, Ricardo Sanchez, and Stuart Moore. Stuart Moore gets better and better. Jordan Witt, likewise, the Cheshire driver, up from GT Cup, then International GT Open, where he's been racing Bentleys.
Just to give the audience how confusing these sessions are compared to qualifying, or obviously in a race. The number 7 Bentley, Jules Gougnot, 4th quickest, 49.8. This morning, that car was 34th quickest, but a 150.2. Now,
what do you learn from that, John?
Well, all I know is they've got half a second quicker. But obviously there's a clear reason for it. Either it's they've found the setup that's working with this second generation Bentley Continental GT3, or it's fresher rubber. There's a reason for it, and teams are reluctant to tell you why. But the facts are in front of us. That number 7 Bentley, currently 4th quickest this morning, 34th quickest.
Stuart Leonard brings number 17 in. Winner of Sepang 12 Hours. His first outing with WRT. It was a happy start to the relationship. And of course, successful at Bathurst, last year's sprint champion. British Racing Drivers Club member now, Stuart Leonard, who's not been racing for that long, probably only about 5 seasons. Caterham's, Blancpain Pro-Am, and then up with WRT.
Tell you what, a Caterham, you drive it literally. You do drive it by the seat of your pants. You flinch in the driver's seat. The car already's got the tail out and sliding around. And, I mean, you don't steer a Caterham, you just flex your wrists. It's so direct. It's such a fantastic experience. Believe me, it's the most fun on 4 wheels. Well, more or less.
Bentley might disagree. Number 7, this is Jules Gougnot. He's up to first.
Yeah, indeed. Good.
1:49.704, last year's German GT, the ADAC GT Masters champion. Second generation racer, of course. Jean-Marc Gougnot is here and cheering his son along. And it's quite a boost, isn't it, to be plucked into a works drive, or factory drive, like Bentley, and into the Plum car, number 7.
Well, and in fairness, I like to think that we had something to do with it, because he had an outstanding performance in Spa last year, and we were singing his praises. And I mean, look, everybody in the pit lane could see it as well, but it was just a standout performance. As a couple of years earlier, Nicky Team had been a standout performance. But now that Bentley are they've done a lot of testing. I think they did a 30-hour test somewhere with this car. But there's a difference between doing that endurance testing and looking for out-and-out speed, which is what they need now. And they go to qualifying tomorrow morning, and Jules Gagnon is doing a very, very good job.
Indeed so.
And number 8, the sister car, Vincent Abril, is now what? Well, he's 0.025 behind the 7. So 2 Bentleys, very, very consistent.
So Stephen Kane is due a spell, and Guy Smith is there in the headset, ready for his go. Yeah, 25,000 split the 2 Bentleys, which look serious bits of kit this year, don't they? The livery helps, the whole rear wing assembly makes it look even more purposeful.
I mean, it's this sort of metallic, it's like a matte metallic grey paint, and it's so stealth looking, but it is a much more muscular, much more aggressive styling design from the first generation of Bentley Continental GT3. And we see the sister car, the number 8. Massive rear wing, bulging rear wheel arches. The front of it, you can see just how much more the identity of the Bentley has gone from being maybe the slightly softer traditional Bentley grille into something that's muscular, and says, we're not here, we're here to win, and we are going to win, and we're going to try and dominate within BOP.
Well, both cars at the moment showing very good pace indeed, although there's another Stracker Mercedes now splitting them. Adrien Tambay, son of former Ferrari and Renault and Lola Haas driver Patrick Tambay up to 4th fastest.
David, don't forget McLaren. I know that Patrick might like to forget McLaren, but 1979, we were teammates at McLaren.
It's very true. I had forgotten that he'd had his less than successful time at McLaren, but yes, he was there.
Apparently, he didn't find me a great teammate.
Really?
I don't know what it was. I don't know. I didn't do anything that upset him as far as I'm aware. But he doesn't have good memories, apparently. Oh. Well, not everybody does.
And your memories of Patrick?
A very nice chap.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, Patrick's background was actually part of the French junior ski team, and they came into motorsport through skiing through the ELF Young Driver program and gravitated up in Formula 2 and into Formula 1.
There's a very interesting book about Patrick's time at Ferrari. It's 27 chapters of the story to go with the number that he carried on the car. And, okay, it doesn't touch on McLaren necessarily, but it's an interesting read if you want to know more about Patrick Tambay and how he was dropped from Ferrari. He was, as often is the case, one of the last to know. So number 8, you're riding with Vincent Abril, and he is down to 5th then because of Adrien Tambay's efforts to get himself up now to 4th quickest. So 5th, the Lumia rank tells you. Vincent Abril a little wide at the second Lesmo. Just to make the point about the number of cars, we've got 54 in the entry for this weekend, but only 51 ventured out for free practice this morning.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, a small number of people, just took the view that, we're comfortable with the running we've done, our drivers are circulated, so let's just not bother running. 114, Emil Fry, Stefano Teddy, Marcus Paltala, Norbert Siedler have been reported to the stewards for speeding in the pit lane. Now, I hope they weren't quicker in the pit lane than they were on the circuit, but I suspect it was just like a little glitch, probably a human error.
Well, the car is still in, and it therefore was brought in by Norbert Siedler, so he is the man that will be having to discuss this. These days, just to make another point, the cars all have GPS on them, so the race director knows precisely where they are. It's not a mathematical guesstimation of where a car is in a sector, he knows precisely, and that GPS also means they can be 100% sure who is doing what speed when a full course yellow is called, if anybody overtakes under a safety car, they'll know that, whether the place is overtaken, and then if it's given back again, all that information is there thanks to the live GPS. There are 3 computers monitoring this, there are little alerts that ping up to say this has happened, that's happened. So Alain Adon, who is the race director, Jackie Groom, his assistant sporting director, I mean, they've got all this information to look at, as well as the safe running of a race.
Not like the good old days when you could get away with, appalling things. And then you could stand in the steward's room and argue about it because, you were relying on maybe a report from a marshal's post somewhere around, and there was no television evidence, there was no photographic evidence. And if it was something that was marginal, it was very difficult for the driver to, well, he could probably win and argue and win his case. The good old days. Do we really miss them? Do we miss the good old days of motorsport?
In some ways, yes. In other ways, it's moved the game on hugely.
I mean, instead of having a Lamborghini, we never saw a Lamborghini Miura at race, but we saw in period Ferraris, 250 GTs, 250 GT Berlinettas, Tour de France, GTOs. I mean, those cars around Monza will be about 30 seconds a lap slower than the modern, the Lamborghini or the 488 Ferrari on the tires of the day.
Yeah,
unless you gave one to Adrian Newey, who makes an E-type go quicker than God ever dreamed it was capable of going.
That's a seriously quick E-type. We've almost got to the end of the first third of the session because we're about 4 minutes away from the first 30 minutes elapsing. And Davide Rigon has gone quickest. Davide Rigon 1:49.177. So we're still not as quick as the cooler opening session of the day, but the times are starting to come down. And actually, there's been a bit more shuffling of times in this. It was a bit of a stalemate early on, wasn't it? Free practice times, they were set, and then that was it. Whereas here, there is more fluctuation.
Currently there is. I mean, just watching Dries van Thor, currently 29th quickest. There is Dries van Thor, who balloted his copybook 2 weekends ago when he handed over, or was handed over the number 1 Audi and failed to recognise there were 4 cones more or less in front of the car. He just drove and scattered into the 4 winds and of course paid the penalty for not being aware. Whether it's a team problem, a driver problem, the point is he got penalised and consequently lost the race.
So at the moment you've got Rigon's Ferrari ahead of the number 78 Lamborghini that's very rapidly here cycling through drivers. So you've now got Sandy Mitchell in the car. Third is Alvaro Perez Mercedes. Fourth is Stephen Kane Bentley. Fifth is Adrian Tombay Mercedes. Sixth is now Andy Soucek Bentley. 7th is Rui Aguas Mercedes. 8th, it is car number 11, which is the Kessel Racing Alessandro Pierguidi Ferrari. 9th is Patrick Niederhauser in the Lamborghini Gallardo. And 10th is Lukas Stolz Mercedes.
Keep an eye on Dries van Thor because pushing hard, very aggressive, using the curve, the back end, swings out as he comes through this middle section, the right-hand turn of the Escaria chicane. And the 63 Lamborghini in his line of sight, but it's the number 1 Audi. We want to see whether Dries van Thor can actually drive 260, just over 260 kilometers per hour down to 3rd gear, and probably shifting into 4th. No, he's holding it quite a long time. So just over 200 kilometers per hour at what I would call the exit of the corner, comes across the start-finish line. And where does Dries van Thor finish up? Well, he finishes up in 26th. So not a lot of grip currently for the young Belgian driver, but it's a good stint. He's doing a lot of good work for his car and for the WRT Audi team.
Monza has not, certainly in recent years, been that kind of hunting ground for Audi, hasn't it? They've always been a bit breathless around here, seemingly.
The advantage that they have, and I alluded to this when we were talking about what will happen on Sunday, and fuel consumption. The Audi is marginally more economical than some of the competition around it, which can give the team advantages when it comes to if you sort of maybe make an early pit stop or you get out of sequence. So it gives them more flexibility than it would do to one or two of the other manufacturers. So that's something that they have got. But as you say, last year or the year before, you had McLaren winning here, Mercedes. So. Is that a Gallardo as well?
It is, that's the Patrick Niederhauser car. But actually, he's 4th fastest. Niederhauser doing a very good job here. He's another convert from single-seater racing.
That's not meant to happen.
Well, no, it's intriguing that it's quicker than all the Hurricanes, all bar one.
Yeah.
And a wheel hooked onto the dirt. So Niederhauser here, absolute best in the first sector. He's got to try and beat a 48.9. So let's just see what the middle sector is. 37.2 is the best in that sector. And Patrick Niederhauser then, with the 31 Team Parker Racing Bentley up the road ahead of him, comes now towards the exit of the Lesmos, down towards the Variante Ascari. So Niederhauser 4th. John's point, it's not meant to happen, is valid because you've got the new all-singing, all-dancing Huracan, but here's one of the older Gallardos that Hans Reiter, for many, many years, the man that championed the cause of Lamborghini in GT3 racing, he is still running this car and running it well. We've had a change for 3rd fastest because up to 3rd now goes 54, which is Alex Fontana in the Emile Frey Jaguar. So it's Rigon in the SMP Racing Ferrari ahead of the Barwell Lamborghini, Fontana's Jaguar, Perez Mercedes, and Niederhauser was down by 6/10 in the middle sector. So there should be an improvement from where he is fifth, but I think he's bailing.
Coming in, yeah, he's coming in.
Yeah, so absolute best in the first sector, down in the middle, and pits at the end of the third. So down the pit road comes Niederhauser. Let's hear from Stuart Leonard, who has done a stint. He's out of the car and he's in the pits with Dakota.
Stuart, welcome back to Blancpain GT Series. What is it like to be here at Monza?
Oh, it's great. You know, the atmosphere is really cool. The circuit is quite unique, and it's an awesome place.
And how are you doing in the car?
Yeah, things are going well. I think we're working more on long runs than out-and-out pace, so we'll have an answer on that tomorrow.
Anything else to say?
Enjoy the race.
Thank you.
Stuart Leonard then.
I thought I was going to ask for a double cappuccino from the waitress.
Stuart Leonard's car at the moment quite a long way down. Just looking to see whether it's even in the top four. I mean, the point he makes about doing a long run is a valid one.
Absolutely, and that's what most of the leading car driver lineups principally are going to do. Not in the case of everybody. We've seen some very good times so far. 48.9 currently, the quickest from David Rigon, and that's within just under half a second of the best we saw this morning. But principally, as you pointed out, everybody's going to be looking at gathering information and knowing what the car's going to do.
Charlie Eastwood here, trying to find track space. Charlie new to the Aston Martin, last year's Carrera Cup GB champion, the Belfast driver. Also got the fastest lap in the race at Le Mans last year for domestic Porsche championships. Former single-seater racer, Formula Renault, Formula 4, the BRDC F4 cars. And now joining Tom Ferrier's team, which runs the Oman racing team. TF Sports, Tom Ferrier a bit. And Ahmad Al-Hafi is the man that brings the Oman money to the team and gets better and better and better every season. And this year, as I say, they've got Charlie Eastwood as part of that driving force, and also Ewan Mackay, who steps up from Carrera Cup GB as well.
Just sliding it down the inside of the McLaren into the Ascari. Charlie Eastwood, of course, buoyed up by the fact that he's got family members all the way from Belfast joining him here at Monza, as does Andrew Watson. His family, his father in particular, attends every race. So Andrew back in a McLaren, having been in an M6 BMW 2 weekends ago in Zolder. And it'll be interesting to see how Charlie gets on with a mid-front engine V12 Aston Martin. Quite different in every context to the Porsche Carreras that he's been driving over the last few years.
Yeah, he specialised in those for the last 2 seasons, and he comes to pit in. So the Aston Martin down the pit road, 12 fastest though Charlie was. That was a good effort.
Good effort, yeah.
Yeah. And behind him, you saw the Garage 59, Ben Barnicoat, Kerben Edgar, Andrew Watson, McLaren 48th. Their 38th is number 99, which is the Marco Wittmann BMW, former DTM champion, of course.
Strong car in terms of driver lineup. Nicky Katzberg and Alexander Sims.
I mean, Nick Katzberg is another former Spa 24-hour winner. If you remember the Mark VDS Z4s, the lead car broke, and he really stepped up to the plate, didn't he? I mean, he went quicker, and he won the race.
Isn't that the race that they were under great pressure from Nicky team in the Audi? That was 2015 or 16 or 17?
Yeah.
16.
It was Mark VDS's crowning glory, and of course the team stopped racing in GT after that for various reasons. So the Audis, and there are plenty of them, even if they're struggling for pace, wriggle through. Number 7 is 7th fastest. Stephen Kane is at the wheel of it.
72. Ferrari, that's now gone quickest.
Yeah, I think Davide Rigon's given way to Mikhail Alyoshin, hasn't he now?
Yeah. Well, there's maybe the David Rigon time still stands. As we look at the number 7 Bentley, it was Jules Gounon behind the wheel, not going particularly quickly. And that's the reason why he's going back into the pit lane. That Stephen Kane. They were, I think, 3rd and 4th now, 7th for number 7 Bentley, and here we are.
The Porsche, the Manthey Porsche, down towards the Retafilio. So 911, what else would you number it? Dirk Werner is at the wheel, and he's 6th fastest, John.
Now let's watch and see what this car, ordinarily the Porsche, because it's got that engine hanging out of the back, it's got really good traction, which is what you want out of the 3 chicanes that we have here at Monza. Top speed probably slightly not as quick as it would like to be. Car's grown, I mean, the width of the let's loosely call it a 911, that's about a third wider than the original Porsche 901, which then became the 911, was that introduction.
The telemetry is fascinating, just looking at the speed of the gears as well, as you see that graphic in the bottom right corner, and showing Dirk Werner hustling on up the curb. He's about to encounter traffic though, and quite a bit of it.
Yeah, the BMW twin-turbo V8. So straight line speed of the BMW Porsche, I would suspect are probably fairly similar. Ferrari ahead ought to be that little bit quicker, but again, a lot of it is the speed that you can achieve off the corner. Obviously being held up by the BMW, overrunning it almost on the exit, but now as the BMW stretches its legs, Porsche just hovering in the air flow, trying to get up alongside, gets past it cleanly and easily, eventually then onto the brakes. Maybe you want to brake marginally earlier with the Ferrari ahead of you, so as you get on the throttle where you want to, and then drive the car hard out of the parabolica and pick up the slipstream that the Ferrari will now be offering up to you as we come on to the quickest part of this Monza circuit, up to about 280 kilometers per hour. 283 was the quickest we saw yesterday. Can do nothing with the Ferrari in spite of getting that slipstream.
So that last lap from Dirk Werner was a 50.04 tenths down on what he'd been doing earlier on. But there does seem to be more, as you look at Fred Reykjaviki, more urgency in this session. People are pushing harder. Romain Dumas getting ready for his turn behind the wheel. So thoughts about people perhaps doing less running. There's a bit more commitment, it feels, certainly to me. There is Alyoshin, the Russian driver, who's raced single-seaters in, of course, Europe as well as in America. And Alyoshin is, that car, thanks to Davide Rigon, is 3 tenths quicker than Sandy Mitchell's Barwell Lamborghini.
Of no consequence whatsoever, but we hope to get to see it. We saw a bit this morning when Robin Frains was very fired up. Robin Frains in the 30s and the number 17 Audi, I beg your pardon, in 37th position. That's a first time in the top 40 for Robin in this session.
So there is Alyoshin. And now we have got an absolute best in the first sector that has just been set by number 24. It's the Reiter Lamborghini again. Mads Siljehaug has done the best of anybody within sector 1 on this lap.
I think I'm a bit of confused.com.
Why is the Gallardo going better than the Huracan?
It's a Reiter Gallardo, which we know was a very quick car in period. Yeah. But particularly the Grasser and to some degree the Barwell Lamborghinis and other entrants of the Huracan, you know, it is a step forward in technology. And even the Super Trofeos, when they were running a little bit earlier today, or certainly in practice, their practice and qualifying times were not a tenth of a second short of what we're seeing right now from the GT3 field. So where's the guy out of finding all his pace? It's
a question, isn't it? And it's impressive, but I was going to suggest earlier it was all down to Niederhausen, but now that Siljehaug is doing good sectors, might have been a tow past the pits, obviously, to help him into that, but we'll see whether the lap times are consistent or whether it's purely down to Patrick Niederhausen, who is a gun. Right, the Ferrari into the chicane, that's
messy,
brave.
Very messy. You know, that was just careless. The Mercedes should have got out of the way. There you go, exactly, and I understand the reasons why. All he had to do was check his mirrors, back out of the throttle, and not impede the car that's coming on the racing line.
And that Mercedes is Jelmer Berman, of whom you would say should know better.
Correct. So Jelmer Berman, you're not going to endear yourself to some of the other competitors by doing so, as we watch the Lamborghini, which number is this watching? Number
19, I think.
I thought it was 19. Here we go again. Let's have a little look and see. Now the car that's been in the pit lane exit should have been aware that there's a quicker car coming down on the racing line, and that's unnecessary. Could actually get a little word with the race director for in consideration. You know, you've got big mirrors in these cars. You only have to check them, particularly when you've just left the pit lane.
Number 33 is being reported to the stewards. This is for a different offence, and that's Miro Konopka, Andrei Lewandowski, and Ling Kang for speeding in the pit lane. And 33, if it's in the top 40, I'll tell you who the driver is. It's not. Apologies earlier on, I was calling Ling Kang Kang Ling. He always appears on entry list as Kang Ling, but you have this constant problem, of course, where you put a Chinese driver's surname first. So technically he should be Ling Kang, but tradition is bound to trip me up again, and I will call him Kang Ling. So apologies, somebody did pick me up on this at the end of the first session. It should be Ling Kang, but every entry list under the sun as it was Kang Ling.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Hoping Tung came along, and the way I got round that was just to say Wishen and Hoping Tung, and it sort of worked for me. I don't know if anybody else thought it was funny or whatever, but I thought Wishen and Hoping was pretty good.
Looking at Matt Griffin's Ferrari chasing the 22 Nissan. Jordan Witt at the wheel of it. So you know that at the end, on the last lap of Jordan Witt's stint, he'll be at his wit's end. I'll get that out of the way now, shall I?
I just as well, I think. Anyway,
here all week, tell your friends.
You know, in the 22 Nissan, this is the Evo 1, if you like, the original basic spec of the Nissan GTR with its fundamental, you know, the whole engine installation, the basic car is straight out of the showroom. It's a stock car adapted to racing. The Evo 2 version has now got the engine low and back in the chassis, significant different changes, still a big work in progress. This is still a good race car, may not have the out and out pace of the front running cars, but it will be a good race car come tomorrow. But nervy, but twitchy on the exit. This engine produces massive amount of horsepower, but equally massive amount of torque. And that looked to me a little bit of the torque getting the better of the grip of the rear tyre.
So Jordan Witt, who is new to this car, he has been successful in the British GT Cup, or club level GT Series, and then had a successful spell in the International GT Open. His dad, David, an occasional racer, and they own the Chevron name now, so Jordan for a time did drive the Chevron GT4 car, but we've not seen that for a few seasons. But Jordan, a quick driver, and improving all the time. It is in 51 now. Duncan Cameron, back behind the wheel. A real Ferrari enthusiast. He did have, I think, one outing in Lamborghini Super Trofeo a good few seasons back, but Duncan and prancing horses, it's very much his car.
I think for many of the loosely described gentleman drivers, there's something charismatic about saying, I race a Ferrari. No doubt there's something charismatic about saying you race a Lamborghini, but I think the heritage, the racing heritage of Ferrari probably swings it for people, and obviously for Duncan Cameron.
Or, you know, I race a historic Porsche, for example.
Do you?
Just hypothetically, I mean, people do. So, we have Jordan Witt up towards the Variante Ascari. We have Matt Griffin's car, Duncan Cameron at the wheel of it, up the curb. And an improvement has come from Alessandro Pierguidi. He's now 6th fastest, a 1:49.608, whereas Bronny Zesky in that car, the AM, did a 48.6 quicker this morning when it was cooler.
Different. Oh, was that a Mercedes just getting all out of shape, just entering into the Parabolica? Just looked like it sort of suddenly the back end snapped away, but we just turned away to catch the cars on entry following the Ferrari of Duncan Cameron and Matt Griffin, who was in the car a little bit earlier. You know, it's a nice partnership. We talked about it a few minutes ago. Two drivers who work well together, the pro and the talented AM, or semi-AM. I don't know whether he's probably moved on a bit from being quite the AM he was when he began a number of years ago. You get two people who work together and sort of think likewise what you want for a long distance race.
And Matt Griffin will tell you, and other pro drivers will tell you, that the AM can make such a big difference as he gets better. You know, the pro kind of runs at that pro pace season after season after season, whereas the AM inevitably will get better. So if you are prepared as the pro driver to invest time and effort into your AM and bring him on, you can make him faster and make him more competitive and make your results better.
The only danger is if you do that, you might get regraded. And I think there's an issue, always is an issue somewhere in the paddock, about the grading of some drivers, whether they should be, let's say, arguably a bronze, which is, oh, what's going off there? Somebody's clipped the dust. It's hard to see
yellow
that.
flags for
coming out of Desmo 1. So then, if you make progress and you become much more proficient, will your grading then change and have a bearing? Let's watch and see. Oh, it is. Oh yeah, well and truly off. I don't know why you'd want to do that. And coming back on in a rather unfortunate manner, just right in front of a car that was falling through.
You're looking at the best of the Lamborghinis here. Sandy Mitchell at the wheel of the Barwell car. New to GT3, stepping up to racing at this level. The young Scotsman going strongly as he comes now up towards the Parabolica. You see the Lumirang flicking between Mick for the driver and 002 for the lead position.
Got caught out under brakes. I think he had to get on the brakes harder than he thought. The Audi just ahead of him maybe slowed down again quicker than he had anticipated, and that's had a bearing on this lap for the young Scotsman as he comes across the line. Loses momentum, of course, as a consequence, coming out of Parabolica and still caught behind two cars, which you would like to think I can maybe find a way past without being delayed, but that is currently the situation he's in.
So out of the Rotofilio goes Sandy Mitchell. There is Duncan Cameron back into the pit lane and staying behind the wheel of the car, refueled. The AF Corsa team. This distinctive green and white livery that's become a feature of this car. And Duncan Cameron has a huge amount of miles in a season.
Is there any reason why Duncan Cameron's Ferrari is those colours? You might say the green could be seen. It's actually a metallic green, but it could be a reflection of the British national racing colour, which is green. Then you've got white.
So
white is the colour of Germany. That's the national racing colour of Germany. Not silver. That is actually white.
Yeah. See, I always thought of whether it was an emerald green, an Irish green for Matt Griffin, just to tell it apart.
I don't think so. It's emerald green would be more. The Irish flag green would be closer to the very bright herring Porsche colour than it would be to the very darker, the much darker green of the Duncan Cameron car.
I shall ask the question. It's an intriguing one, but yeah, it might be a British Racing green nod. Got Matt Parry going quicker, just out of interest, in the Nissan 23, which was a car that was struggling this morning, but he's got it up to 14th. It's the new Nissan, with its new engine location.
That is good news, because the team need something to propel the impetus that's behind this car, so they can actually get that car into the top 10, let's say, in this session. Then that's going to be a good progress that has been made over this session earlier today, and this one we've got just 42 minutes to go, and the sun beginning to dip a little bit further behind the grandstands.
We had a look at 961 a moment ago, which is the Alex de Mergian, Lorenzo Bontempelli and Giancarlo Fisichella Ferrari. That's a car running in Pro-Am, and there it is, down towards the Parabolica.
It's just dropped a place. Well, a number of people have just dropped at the same time down to 26th.
Bontempelli at the wheel. Still very hard to come up with a likely winner, and again, as we saw in the earlier session this morning, the Grasser Racing Team Lamborghinis either struggling or, and perhaps this is more likely, not showing their hand.
I think they're just biding their time. They know they've got a pretty good package in every front, and there's only really that poor pit stop in Belgium when Christian Engelhardt seemed to struggle to get the seat belts back into place when he took over from Mirko Bortolotti. So otherwise their pit stops have been flawless. Both drivers excellent behind the wheel, and Andrea Calderardi joining them, so it's a very, very strong package. And right now, the Lamborghini Huracan out of Grasser Racing has got to be one of your picks for success, both in qualifying and then at the end of 3 hours tomorrow.
Chris Harris at the wheel of the McLaren, the number 188 car, run by Garage 59, and in the AM Cup. 82 Lamborghini, another of the Grasser cars, being investigated for an unsafe release from the pit. The Rolf Ike and Phil Keane Front Pereira car. Another interesting mix of drivers in that. Good that Phil Keane's got himself a Blancpain drive for the season. And Front Pereira is at the wheel of it and has put the car 12th fastest, improving last time.
So Chris Harris, 28th at the minute, and no indication on this lap that we're going to see any significant improvements. Always one sector remaining, but it is one of the longer straights here at Monza. Goes into Parabolica, one of the few corners that really represents what the original corner was, almost from the point in this circuit, the conception of the Monza Autodromo. Chris does not go into TV mode and ragged around the exit of Parabolica. Car comes out cleanly, gets a good exit. Let's have a look and see whether that's going to see any further improvement, 28 currently in the last lap of 151.7. So no improvement for currently 188. What's going on here? Down at the second chicane. Oh, just riding the curb a little bit aggressively. And then on the exit, those curbs on the exit cars do not like running them.
So 39 minutes of this session still to go. It's interesting not only how much improvement in time we have, but also just picking out different cars, because of course new liveries, new driver combinations, yellow flag waving. Why have we got a yellow? Well, is that a car that's ground to a halt on the run to the Escar? It is, because there's no yellow at the chicane itself. So I think there's a car stationary on that run down towards the chicane. This is Maxi Book, number 43. He shares the car with Max Goetz, with whom of course he had great success a few seasons back, and the third driver of the car is Alvaro Parent. So
it seems strange to see Max Book in particular in a car, a Mercedes, that's in the Straka colours rather than that of the former employer HTP, and of course it's a British-based team, Nick Leventis, so hopefully it's just really a different branding for him. The car will be as competitive as it's always been, and Max Book. So let's ride with the diminutive German as it comes down into turn one. This is the first chicane, gets it in pretty neatly, slightly wide in the middle part of the chicane, runs the curve on the exit. Nothing that's going to be detrimental in a major way. Then up through the gearbox and just ease the car in, quite a shallow entry into, still to me, the Curva Grande, and just really hold it round there without even any side step. As you come out of the exit, then a big brake as you come down. And where is the bridge that used to be there? There used to be a bridge that was over the top of the circuit before you got into the chicane. Exits that, not using the curb on the outside, clean exit into Lesmo 1. Just you float the car through the corner. Great feeling of doing it when you do it correctly. Then into Lesmo 2, shadow of its former self, because it used to be a real white knuckle ride. Done in the interest of safety to slow down the exit speed because of the lack of outright space on the outside of the corner. And then the drop down under the bridge that comprises the bank circuit, that up the incline. You can brake a little bit later because of the uphill incline into the Ascari. Gets it in good apex, gets the car positioned for a late-ish apex, then cuts back. Second and third part of the Ascari, not as good as sometimes you might have expected. Maybe the car running tyres that are beyond their best has got a Porsche ahead of him. Now that's going to be an interesting, because it'll have a bearing on what Max Book can do at the end of the lap. So it looks like he's backed off it a little bit. Is he backed off it to come in? He's going to come in my view. Come in, Max, prove me right. You little sod, you're staying out.
So he lost out to the 911 Romain Dumas, and perhaps tries to get himself clear track space, but that was not an improvement that lap time. Goes through, that was a 55, so he gave away about 7 seconds. Adrian Amstutz has had a spin in 77 but has rejoined, and the session's got 36 minutes still to go.
The headlights on some cars are on, not because the light's fading, but simply because they just want other cars, slower cars, to be aware that they're being caught quickly as we see the car that everybody is waiting to see. Wow, where did that time come down? Whose Audi is that parked behind the barrier? 25, I think. That's the Sunblock Racing.
Which stopped early on, the red flag out at the end of the early session.
This is the first time I've noticed it then. Anyway, here she comes, 63, the car that I suppose most of, I was going to say smart money, Christian Engelhardt behind the wheel will be on. So again, average times in the first and second sectors, and Grasser Racing just allowing the drivers to feel and find their way around. This is going to be, well, the race finishes roughly about now, tomorrow afternoon. So this could be the last lap for the 63 Lamborghini 24 hours from now.
Where will it start tomorrow? Where will it finish tomorrow? What pace can it reveal? 25th fastest the car has become, with Christian Engelhardt now at the wheel. Still got 35 minutes into the early evening here of this session to go. Slightly changed livery with the orange across the top for this year. They're heading out of the Parabolica, part of the Emil Frey squad, 54. is the Jaguar that is in the hands of Alex Fontana, Adrian Zaug, and Mick Grenier, Michael Grenier, both of whom are graduates of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Michael Grenier, the winner last year, the Canadian.
Well, if this was to be the grid for tomorrow, you'd have a Ferrari and pole and a Lamborghini alongside it, and the lap time for the Lamborghini, I'm not sure that was Sandy Mitchell set it or not, but a 1:49.2, 0.3 of a second away from the quickest Ferrari. Nevertheless, that's a nice place to start, and that was going to be our grid for tomorrow.
And this car is third. So the Emil Frey Jaguar going great guns, Adrian Zaug on the wheel. Yeah, just going back to Sandy Mitchell, that was a time done early on by Michele Beretta.
Indeed.
So it's stood.
It's, it's sort of, oh, there we are, 62 in the gravel. Now, is that coming out of Baltic? Hard to tell just from where. Alex Brundle.
Good Lord.
Alex Brundle. Well, what can I say?
Alex Brundle.
Alex Brundle.
Yes. Dad won't be pleased, nor will Alex.
Well, I hope Dad's streaming this.
Full course yellow now. Full course yellow now.
That voice you hear is Alain Ardon, who is the race director, who calls for a full course yellow. So rather than have to stop the session, he keeps the car circulating under a full course yellow while this can be pulled from the gravel. I'm trying to find Alex in the times. Where was he?
We haven't really actually, we've seen the car, but we haven't seen. So how did he get there?
Sorry, Mike, say again, please.
That looks like it's trying to find the corner. Is that going into Parabolica? It's hard to tell from that camera angle. Going into Curva Grande, sorry, the corner after the first chicane. Strange place. I mean, he's gone well off track because you can see the tarmac bit of the runoff area, then you finally get to the gravel. So whatever has happened, it's happened pretty high speed to get that far.
So full course yellow we have, and there the marshals are on the scene to try and hook the car out of the way delicately, because they're pretty expensive and intricate bits of kit, a modern day GT3 car, so you don't want to just roughly tug it, risk damaging it. Cars these days in the British Touring Car Championship, for example, have these little holes atop the windscreen where you can fit the lifting gear, but quite often you have to fit this through the doors under the roof and cradle it out of the way. And there is the cradle. So in the pit lane, we've got a driver change going on for the Lamborghini squad.
And this is
Mirko Blincalotti.
Yeah, I saw a photograph of Mirko. One of our former commentators posted a photograph of Mirko when he was racing in single-seaters. It was a race in England, and well, he looked very young.
It was Formula 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I was there.
I saw Andrea Calderati in the class. Right?
Yeah. No, he was good in Formula 2, but has really made a name for himself in GT cars. That's one of the joys of looking back on old programmes, old result sheets, and you look at the names that raced against each other in seasons past, and you think, oh gosh, what happened to him? And oh, look where he has come from.
Look at his hair.
Yeah. What are you saying about doing miss the old days?
Yeah.
Right, so Alex Brundle's car pulled out of the gravel. It is the Parabolica.
It is Parabolica, but it's just
a weird place to get to.
Well, it's quite early in the corner. Maybe he had a problem under braking, and that's the reason why. It was hard to judge the corner because the light down there isn't quite as good as it is earlier in the day. So the car's been pulled out. Alex Brundle's got it fired up, and now he's going to try and get it back. Hopefully there's only just a load of gravel in it. He's doing the right thing. He's staying off track. Good boy. Well done, Alex. That's a good job.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's intelligent driving.
I'm surprised that some people have stayed out because you can't achieve much. I suppose what you do, at least, you can then get back into a rhythm quicker. You don't have to leave the pit lane and the car doesn't cool down. But quite a few people have bailed. I would stay out. So Alex Brundle, the cause of the full course yellow. There, number 14, the new Lexus that joins the championship this season. As we go back to green, 14 being Christian Klein, Marco Seefried and Albert Costa. As the sister car 114 has been put into the garage at SRO Racing.
It's a pretty empty start-finish straight, just these two cars coming out of the garage. There's the Ferrari as it makes its way across start-finish line. $480. What an appropriate number. Do you think they had to pay for that? Was it on retention, you think?
know, triple-digit cars becoming more and more common, aren't they? Rick Yoon, the Korean driver, the Korean banker at the wheel of it, coming for the first time really into European racing. He's been in the Audi R8 China Cup, but in Blancpain GT Series Asia. He drives an Aston Martin this year with Adrian De Silva in the Blancpain GT Series Asia.
It's a bit worrying, all these bankers going motor racing. They're looking after our money.
Yes.
You know, I just wonder.
Have you got much invested in Korea?
No. I thought you were going to say bitcoins.
But Rick Yoon learning about Monza, learning about the car. Quite a steep learning curve, this, isn't it? So 32nd that car is, which means that the time was done early on by, I'm assuming, Pierre. Is not that the one that lost a wheel at the start of the session?
Well, it's running fine now.
Yeah, indeed.
You know, it's very difficult to second guess what the cause of the wheel coming detached. It probably most likely was that the wheel nut or the wheel itself hadn't been secured into the dials the wheel fits into, and therefore the nut didn't get a full bite, and then, as it happens, it all detaches. These guns, you know, the torque on one of these air guns is so great that once the wheel is properly pinched down, nothing's going to move it, but if it isn't correctly done, then it'll not get pinched down.
So there is 488, Rick Yoon at the wheel, learning, as I say, about a new car, a new circuit, a new team. It's all very, very new, new culture, new discipline together. So 28 minutes of the session remain. More driver changes, but no now changes particularly to the order up at the top of the times. So you've got Miguel Molina having taken over 72 there. 33 is the ARC Bratislava Mercedes, Miro Konopka's team, and he drives that car along with Andrei Lewandowski and Ling Kang. I must now get used to calling him. But Andrei Lewandowski starred in Lamborghini Super Trofeo in the AM Cup last season, so it's quite a step up, but Lewandowski still one to watch.
It's amazing just how a paint scheme in a car can make it. I mean, this AMG GT3 looks so different to the Straka cars or the Black Vulcan team or the ACA ASP. And I think it's the way that the quarter light behind the driver's window has been partially color-coded to suit the rest of the car. It just seems, oh, it runs wide on Lesmo too. It follows the more conventional looking black and silver. Another car off on the right hand side.
Lewandowski is 18th overall, which I think is a pretty
good
mighty
effort. That's a very good effort indeed.
So there he is, out of the Variante Ascari. He's also doing the Lamborghini Super Trofeo races this weekend, so he's a busy chap. And the session with 26.5 minutes still to go.
I wonder how long does it take to come out of the Lamborghini, you know, switch that chip off, get into the Mercedes and ignite the chip in the Mercedes, because, you know, very opposite cars in terms of the layout of the car, and I suspect likewise handling characteristics.
Good question. Yeah. Seemingly, it's not a problem going so strongly. Goes over the timing line, rumbles past. That lap of 52.4, so a bit down that time. And you've got 3 different drivers having done the best in each of the 3 sectors. So nobody's done the perfect lap. There's the Valkenhorst BMW, which is Henry Valkenhorst's team. Number 36 of Anders Buchart, Emanuele Binker and Henry Valkenhorst. That's another car from the AM Cup.
Looking down top 2333 Ferrari, Rinaldi Racing. Alexander Matschul, 16th quickest. Not a lot of movement in terms of packages moving up, timing and scoring. It's pretty much staying status quo. That's one of the few that's occurred in the last few minutes. Not seeing many purples either these days. A few greens popping up from Stefano Telli. He's got a green in Sector 1 in his last lap, gone into the pits. Stefano Telli in the Lexus 15th, so that's good progress. The Lexus showing a bit of the promise which one would expect it to do.
Things have stabilised, that's for sure. As they're up towards the Variante Ascari comes the Valkenhorst BMW. dealers who run this race project as a separate business, concentrating really on the VLN, but a second season in the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup. That car developing nicely. It's a big hit with the organisers of the 24 Hours as well at Spa, because it's got the Total backing, of course, are big partners of the event. Up towards the timing line comes the BM with Anders Buchart at the wheel.
42nd.
Yeah.
It's not, I think, particularly relevant. It's probably number 76 has just leapt up into 4th place.
That's the SRO Motorsports
Mathieu
Vazivière, Aston.
Yeah, so that's suddenly a time. Where's that come from?
There it is.
There indeed. So real pace.
Yeah.
149.321, 0.3 of a second away from the quickest Ferrari overall. That's a good improvement. One might be cynical in saying, well, was that the bit behind the wheel or the 4 bits on the wheels?
Well, Vazivière is somebody new to GT Astons and adapting pretty well here, you would say.
Well, that's a strong time. I mean, that's not just a time that's been worked on, that's popped up out of the box. And if that's down to the driver, well, that's very impressive. .321. When are we going to see an Aston race with an AMG V8 turbo in it? Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, I'm not sure about that.
I know it's not really, you know, it's still in inverted commas an Aston.
Yeah.
Because obviously the engine, a lighter package than the venerable V12. Easier to put into the frame, put the engine further back in the frame, all those kind of little tuning details. Stays on the right of track to let the faster traffic get through with good consideration.
So he's backed off there, getting out of the way.
Yeah.
That Aston has, which is 76, that's the Vazivière car. There in the pit lane is the Lazarus number 27 entry, which is of Giuseppe Cipriani, Miguel Ramos and Fabrizio Crestani.
Down in 40th place presently.
Which is the SMP rating by ACA ASP Mercedes. That car for Vitaly Petrov, Denis Bulatov and Michael Meadows.
Now, is that the first time we've seen Vitaly
Petrov
in a Blancpain GT3 event?
I had a feeling.
Not in recent years that I remember, but it may have been.
I had a feeling he'd done Spa, but
okay.
I'll stand corrected on that.
So he is making his way into the pits. Stays inside the blend line. That's a no-no, as it is a no-no here on the pit lane exit. Interestingly, when we were watching the earlier session for the Blancpain GT Sports Club, when the safety car entered the circuit to take control of the cars, it actually came across the white line, but I suppose one has to say he was allowed to do that. But as a competitor, when you leave the pit lane, you must not cross that white line until you've passed the end of it, and then you can make a move across to the left, assuming the racetrack is clear. So a little bit further down the field into the top 10, car 42, the Straka Racing. So that's gone up into 9th place with Lewis Williamson behind the wheel, so a personal best in Sector 1 of 49.630 for the 42 Straka Mercedes-Benz, Lewis Williamson behind the wheel.
And another one being reported to the stewards, which is car 90, and that's the Georges Kowiak, Jack Manchester, Nico Bastian Mercedes. They work long hours, these stewards, don't they? I mean, they're selfless people, giving up their evening to sort out drivers' discipline.
They must wish for the good old days when they wouldn't have had half of this workload.
Without the data, yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Off early for a nice supper. Monza, wonderful restaurants in the location. Nice bit of Remy. I don't know what your favourite tipple might be. Probably red.
Well, Greg Masters, who is the chief steward, I mean, he himself a former racer in pre-65 saloons and the Honda CRX Challenger. That was always fairly rumbustious. I'm sure he was up before the stewards himself all those years ago. But now there's video, there's data, there's all sorts of things.
I mean, often it's almost midnight before some of these stewards are able to get away.
Yeah, you don't book a Sunday night flight, do you? So there through is number 12, Lamborghini, from the Ombra racing team with Alex Frasinetti, Roman Monti and Andrea Rizzoli. And we've got, what, 19 minutes and change on the clock still. There's the Lexus. Great shape, that. It's another nice brand to have on the grid. And full marks to the Emil Frey team for taking on yet another project.
Well, they took on the Jaguar project, and eventually they got it to be a very competitive car, and it's been a very competitive car basically so far this weekend. But the Lexus is much more contemporary technology, and once the Emil Frey team get their head around it and find the direction which is going to take them forward, then it'll be an interesting, again, it's a mid-front engine car going against the I suppose the main flow, which is mid-engine, rear engine cars. Mercedes principally, although on occasions Aston Martin have proven to be exceptionally strong as well. So it looks a bit like a car you might go to see in the Lexus showroom, if that's what your favourite took you.
Yes, we've got Lexus joining in. I know it's a team rather than a brand, but Lexus as a name on the grid. You've also got Honda, of course, with its new NSX that we saw in the Blancpain GT Series Asia opener last week. So more and more brands being represented on GT3 grids, showing the success of it. And as a side story, you've got GT4, which is getting more and more popular, and more manufacturers building cars for that. Mercedes, BMW, McLaren and Porsche are all on the grid a week ago in the Asian series, at Sepang, for example. So you have to say, GT racing is booming, unquestionably. British GT having one of its strongest grids for a long, long time. German Championship healthy, of course. So the GT3 concept goes from strength to strength. The Lexus booms past the pits.
I think a large reason for its success is its accessibility. I mean, you've got these turnkey cars from all the major motor manufacturers. And this used to be the domain of Porsche for decades, and now everybody's kind of doing the same thing. I mean, Lamborghini have done outstandingly with the Super Trofeo and the Lamborghinis that race in GT3. Mercedes do it, Audi do it, Porsche kind of does it. They sort of rather look after their own one-make championship probably more than they would necessarily compete on a regular basis in, as an example, the Blancpain Sprint and Endurance Championships. Ferrari, you know, you can have a season of racing. I can't say it's inexpensive, but it's a lot less expensive than going down the route of the higher end of the junior single-seater championships, and you can make a career out of this and have a very enjoyable time.
Indeed so. Number 14 then, the Emil Frey Lexus Racing Lexus RCF GT3, and it is Marco Seefried, Albert Costa, Christian Klein, the drivers. Number 90, oh dear, reported to the stewards for speeding in the pit lane for the second time. This is the Szymkowiak, Manchester and Bastian car.
Was it the same driver both times? Or, you know, it can be, there are electronic glitches that can arise. The other thing that has happened previously is that the speed limiter only operates in first gear, I think in some of the cars. So if you pull second gear, you just go through the speed limit.
Right.
And you assume that the limiter will do it. I don't know whether that's the case in the Mercedes. It may be something simpler than that.
Well, that goes 22nd fastest, Christian Klein over the line.
Kind of missed the boat,
Yeah.
Christian Klein.
Yeah.
You know, came along as a young, up-and-coming Austrian hopeful, and Jaguar race, Formula One didn't really develop, and then, of course, when the team became Red Bull, there was no nationalism with Dietrich Mateschitz. He went down the route of the best available.
Hadn't he already been a Red Bull driver in Formula Renault, though?
He may have been.
So he kind of dropped off that system already.
Well, I don't know whether he carried that sponsorship with him when he was in Jaguar or not. He may have had a personal deal, but when then Mateschitz took over the Jaguar team and formed Red Bull Racing, there didn't appear to be an opportunity for him there.
But he then found a drive successfully with Peugeot, didn't he, in sports car racing?
Yep.
And now into GT cars. So, yeah, perhaps he was too much was expected too early, but he certainly developed into a tidy driver.
Yes, and I think that is often the case where a youngster comes along and it all sort of happens so quickly, it all seems so easy, and then the hard yards start to set in, and the career can take a big step back.
And Red Bull, not exactly noted for its mercy. I mean, Brendan Hartley's second coming is the one exception, but so many people have been dumped for not delivering, in Helmut Marko's opinion, when he wants them to.
Unceremoniously in some cases.
Yeah. So 77, that's had a spin, the Adrian Amstutz Lamborghini. This is the one he shares with Leo Wachitsky and Francisco Guedes, the other half of the Mark Lamber-Barwell squad.
That accident occurred somewhere in the middle of the night.
I'd gone to Snetterton by that
stage,
so I didn't see it.
I think it was somewhere in the evening time. We just changed over our broadcast lineup, and then we came back to the circuit on Sunday morning, and we were advised of the incident, which was pretty serious. The Barwell Lamborghini was not in a very good way. Neither was Adrian Amstutz.
So Amstutz coming towards us in the Am Cup car. 13 minutes and change on the clock. And often at the end of pre-qualifying, we see a sort of dummy qualifying session as people think about going for a time, but actually it's calmed down again, hasn't it now? This is a little bit like what we had in the free practice period this morning. All the changing has happened early on.
I think I would be surprised if anybody sort of leaps forward. Again, the only reason that it most likely would happen is if somebody's prepared to try and see what the true pace of the car is going to be on the freshest rubber they have, or even, I don't know why anybody would want to take a set of new tyres at this phase, just over 13, or just under 13 minutes remaining. So, anyway, again, it's homework. It's you might want to do a pit stop in anger, do a driver change in anger to make sure all those little niggles that can set in are going to be covered.
So over the timing line goes Amstutz, Adrian Amstutz, the Swiss industrial chemist, who was very successful in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, stepped up to GT last year, and thankfully is not daunted by that accident. Then Aventis, the man behind Straka, but some very good engineers. You've got Tim Sugden working with the team, looking after driver lineups and finding the next stars to put into the car.
I wonder how quick Tim would go in one of these cars.
Well, he raced one last year in Asia with Joachim Collier in Blancpain GT Series Asia. He didn't win a race, but he was always in that leading group.
I mean, Simkoviak has got raw pace. Where was Timbo and that's on that context?
Not quite as quick, but he had guile.
He's always had guile.
Yeah, exactly.
Canny, Yorkshireman, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah. Lived in Leeds. Not that you should hold that against him, but
I went to Leeds for the first time in my life about 10 days ago.
Really?
It was memorable.
I hear people do.
It was memorable.
So, 4 cars from Straka. I mean, it's a massive effort, and under no illusions that they had to move on from McLaren, because those McLarens last year just did not deliver for the team.
Part of the problem on reflection was that the composition of the Pirelli tyre that was introduced in 2017, and in combination with the way that the McLaren handled, it made it a difficult, tricky car to drive. When you got it in the hot spot, the sweet spot, it performed. It was just so difficult, and with varying temperatures around the variety of racetracks, the 10 events, both sprint and endurance, it was difficult. And part of the change for Pirelli with this new tyre is to give that rear tyre sidewall particularly a little bit more stiffness to get away from that. Almost, it was like a wobble, and that then in combination with the McLaren made it quite tricky. Even the more experienced drivers in that team, Rob Bell, Alvaro Parent and others, it was hard work. You could see when they got out of the car how much work they had to put in to their stints.
Sure. So the Mercedes becoming an easier car. There is the Ferrari that was going very strongly this morning. Number 11, Michael Bronizeski, did the gun time to be the fastest. He's back at the wheel of it now, 7th in this session. Bronizeski, we made the point this morning, but it's worth repeating, John, he's an AM+.
Yeah, I mean, the time that the car did this morning was a 48.6. It's done a 49.6 this afternoon. Second away, not because they've all got tired or they want to go home for supper. It's just because they're running what they've got, and again, it's just good housework for Michael Bronizeski. As you say, he is a Bronze Star Plus You know, Alessandro Pierguidi, who is absolutely mega in one of these cars, and it will be interesting to see as a two-driver lineup in this car. So Bronzetti is going to have to do 2 of those sessions. He's proven that he's got strong pace. That's a car potentially could end up in the front 3 rows of the grid.
Yeah, I agree.
As a Pro-Am.
Yeah.
Could be, most likely will be, the leading Pro-Am car after qualifying tomorrow morning.
So 9 more minutes of the session to run.
I don't, isn't it, was Kaspersky, wasn't that his sponsor in the past? Or was that somebody else?
It was a different Ferrari. It was another.
I just wondered.
Of course, it's
yeah. Maybe I thought that was from Bronzewski's background.
No, the Kaspersky backing came with Gary Kondakov, who was their CFO, COO, and he briefly raced in this and then went to do the old sports club race. But the Kaspersky backing stayed, I think it was on the Fisichella car.
It wasn't the Fisichella,
yeah.
I was wondering where it is this year,
no,
to be present.
Gone, I think. Well, certainly gone from this championship. But no, Bronizeski came out of the Ferrari Challenge and goes very strongly. And has been a mainstay of, I mean, we saw him in Blancpain Sprint as well, so I mean, he's not afraid to step up against the pros.
Well, you can't get him out of the driver's seat.
Right. He's won in Sports Club, he's won in Pro-Am in this, he's won in Pro-Am in Sprint, he's won in Pro-Am in the combined championship. So it suits him down to the ground, and that's why I say he's an AM+, because he's done the mileage and he's done it very well.
And he's learned, the key he has learned.
What's changed for this year is he's got a new co-driver, because he's not raced with Pierguidi before.
Well, that'll give him a sort of a step up.
Yeah, it will. And they've also gone from being, or Bronizeski has gone from a 3-driver crew to 2. There is 24, which is the Reiter Lamborghini still pounding on.
It's a narrower car. You know, the Huracan has grown as aero has been added to it, but maybe some of the performance is coming from the fact that it is a clean aerodynamic package.
It does look not old-fashioned necessarily, but it does look older, doesn't it, compared to the Huracan? You know, you can tell it's an older-looking car.
Yes.
It's well developed and it's quick, but even so, it's Lenny or Leonard's marionettes at the wheel at the moment.
I tell you, it's working pretty efficiently right now.
Well, it was until he went up the escape road. So, left,
somebody had a big
right.
off down there in the escape route. That was one of the other events, I take it.
Yes, we had a Super Trofeo Lamborghini try and self-destruct there. Matt Griffin's improved 1 spot at the Times as 8 Bentley. Vincent Abril comes over the line.
So the Monegasque driver, 6.5 minutes of the session remaining. So, I mean, the noise of the Bentley, I mean, it literally thunders. As I've said before, one of the great albums, jazz albums, Duke Ellington, such sweet thunder, and that's what the Bentley is.
So Abril is 12th, and the sister car, which finally got Guy Smith at the wheel of it, is 10th. They must be reasonably confident, I would have thought, on today's pace going into certainly qualifying in the race on this evidence.
Good showing indeed. I mean, a brand new car, very much developed with motor racing in mind, and it just looks really purposeful.
Still think back to that Bentley debut where we'd spent qualifying talking about how big the car looked over everything else, which it did, and then if you remember, Andy Merrick in the first stint was in 2nd place and the leader got away, but Merrick resolutely stood his ground and he had them crawling all over the back of him, and for the bulk of the hour they did not get past.
Well, I mean, I think it was uncharitable for you to call it a Tonka toy, but I mean, it is a wonderful car. I mean, it is so, I just love it. It's the aggression. When you see the car coming towards you, the re-styled radiator, it's gone away from the softer style that the original Bentley Continental GT3 had into something that is purposeful. You know, it's not here just to be pretty, not just to, it's efficient, technically in every sense, mechanically and aerodynamically.
But the nice thing about Bentley is that they have that nod to the heritage of the company. We've seen them in the past running different numbers to commemorate a special number of a winning car, and they have that number effectively painted on the radiator grille like it was in the 1930s. You know, you'd see the number daubed on the side, daubed on the front, and there it is. So it's that nod to the heritage of Bentley. could argue that back in the 1930s, GT racing or sports car racing was customer racing as it is now. But there, the M Sport car up the inside, and this is the replay of how to drive it over the curbs.
That's aggressive. But the car, again, M Sport developed the Bentley on behalf of Bentley. Their background is rallying, and one of the things that a rally car's got to do is have really supple, compliant suspension. So it allows Vincent Abril to really rag it through the Ascari chicane. Now he's going to make the switch back to the left to make the exit. This is the part of the corner that really you need to get right, because this will dictate your top speed down. They're sort of almost equidistant to the straights here at Monza, down into parabolic, up to about 260-65 kilometers per hour.
4 minutes to go, and it's the number 72 Ferrari that then tops the times at the end of this session. The car of Miguel Molina, Michael Alyoshin and Davide Rigon. And actually we got our first, as far as I can remember, track limits warning of the day. Matt Griffin's car, 51, being warned about track limits, but we haven't had many warnings.
No, at all. I mean, Matt Griffin, I mean, he's not that sort of driver, is he? He doesn't abuse track limits. He might abuse a bottle of Bordeaux occasionally, but not track limits.
Yeah, it isn't. Romain Dumas at the wheel of 911, up to 8th fastest. That car chipping its way up the order.
Yeah, that's good news. That is good news here at Monza. In fact, right now one could say that's headline news. This car, which one would assume, with the backing and the lineup, the driver lineup in particular, one of the strongest 3 driver lineups in the field. Let's see what Romain Dumas can do. That horizontally opposed flat 6 water cooled. You still miss the whine of the fan on the air cooled Porsche engines, don't you? Goes up to 8th for him, and no, he's stays
slower
in 8th.
lap though, that over 2
stays
minutes.
in 8th place.
Yeah.
Car that was originally conceived in 1962 and 63, went into production at the end of 63, early 64. I mean, what a story of design, or development over design.
And much as it's moved on, you can still see the original shape in there.
I bet you there are some of the body panels that are probably not a million miles away from a 901, a 2-litre short wheelbase, very desirable for enthusiasts and collectors.
Now more and more people going for the pit lane, so the circuit's getting fairly quiet into these last few minutes. There are 1 or 2 final stops and cars going back out again, but pit lane pretty busy. Who've we got an 89 Mercedes at the moment for Acura ASP?
No, that's not on the top.
It's a long way down.
40, no, I don't see that. So coming into the pit staying, I'm assuming coming into the pit staying well over to the right, coming down into parabolic, and not to impede anybody that might be following behind. Swings out wide and comes into the pit lane.
Indeed so, and that's probably where it's going to end, because there's less than a lap time left in the session now. So end early.
See the Herring Brothers Porsche. No, it's not, that's the Massey car, yeah. Just that fluorescent yellowy greeny colour.
Oh, that's Manti, very successful Porsche racer before he turned to running cars in Carrera Cup, Super Cup, and now in GT events for Porsche.
Yeah, just under the minute remaining, so these cars, if they so wish, will probably go on and have 1 more lap.
Whoops, wide and into the gravel briefly.
Yeah.
That Dominic Schwager in treble 3, getting it wrong, having been very, very quick this morning.
It is, down in 19th position.
All right.
So I suspect, having done that, will he be bothered with another lap? He's got 30 seconds to come through Parabolica, get out across start-finish line. He can probably do it comfortably, but does he really want to bother? Is there any point? Would he feel he's going to gain anything? Well, there are drivers out there who feel every second on the racetrack is quality and valuable, and there he goes. He's continuing on, goes across the start-finish line with 10 seconds remaining, gets 1 more lap. That could be the lap that transforms that car's performance, based on the fact that he could have said, I could have come in, why bother, but there we are.
More and more are going for the pits, and there aren't many on the track. There's the flag. So some bail early. 89, the Mercedes we've been looking at, has just been done for speeding in the pit lane. So that's the car of Philippe Guillaume, Eric Debard and Fabien Barthez.
That's the second Mercedes that's been done for pit lane speeding.
Which driver was behind the wheel, I can't tell you, I'm afraid, but hopefully it wasn't an own goal from Barthez. Speeding in pit road.
Say that again, David, we didn't quite get the joke that first time.
Move on. Been a long day. There's Jelmer Berman, 20th quickest.
Could you say he might have dropped the ball?
Certainly. Berman goes wide and then to pit in. Still pressing on is the Adrian Amstutz Lamborghini. Is Amstutz still behind the wheel of that? No, Francisco Guedes, former Am champion.
32nd place, and that car has, I'm assuming, has taken the checkered flag.
So into the Parabolica.
Interestingly, the Super Trofeo cars have got different bodywork. They've got a shark fin and other alterations which they haven't so far applied to the GT3 version that we're seeing here.
Yeah, you've got the Huracan Super Trofeo Evo. There's your fastest car in the session, 72, of Miguel Molina, Davide Rigon and Mikhail Alyoshin. And the time done by Davide Rigon, but it was Molina who brought the car to the pits. So the flag out, last few cars to take it. And then qualifying, of course, tomorrow morning to determine the grid. This pre-qualifying session, the last opportunity for work to be done before we get to the session itself. So at the end of it, a very different order from the free practice session, the glorified test session from earlier on in the day. And Miguel Molina, Mikhail Alyoshin, but Davide Rigon doing the time are the fastest. But look at the mix of brands, look at the mix of teams, look at the mix of classes. With the number 78 Barwell Lamborghini, Michele Beretta doing the time ahead of Adrian Zaug, Mathieu Vazivière 4th, Alvaro Perrin 5th, Patrick Niederhauser 6th, Alessandro Pierguidi 7th, Werner 8th, 9th was the Nick Leventis, Chris Bunker car, 10th Jules Gounon, 11th Adrian Tambay and 12th Andy Soucek. Scroll further down, you can see Mercedes, Lamborghini, the new Lexus going strongly for 15th, the Stefano Ortelli, Marcus Paltel and Norbert Stiedler cars, Duncan Cameron and Matt Griffin 16th, then Aston Martin, Nissan, Ferrari, Mercedes, BMW, Mercedes, Lexus, Nissan. So a very jumbled order as you scroll all the way down through the times at the end of this pre-qualifying period. Frank Stifler we've not talked about yet today, but down 26th, the Platinum graded driver in a Pro-Am car. Number 1, Vantour, Mies and Riberash a long way down, so also number 63 Lamborghini, but you can anticipate they'll be a lot quicker when we get to qualifying and, of course, working their way up the order on strategy and in the race on pure pace alone there as well. So we had 54 on the entry list and the top 40 rounded out by the Scott-Horst van der Linde car. So that one at Zolder and he's 40th in pre-qualifying, but it's ahead of another gun car, Vautier Juncadella Marciello, and former Pro-Am champs Nick Homson and Louis Machiels quite a long way down the order as well. 53 cars venturing out for this session, so there's one again that's been withdrawn seemingly, hasn't gone out at all. Marcus Winkelhock a long way down, and look at that, the McLaren 51st, Ben Barnicoat, Colm Ledegar and Andrew Watson. So a quick look at some of the highlights, which began with this huge field pouring out onto the circuit, and it wasn't long before we had a three-wheeled Ferrari, Pierre Eret's car, heading back to the pit road, the German driver having deposited a wheel, and others exploring the limits of the circuit as they ran a little bit wide coming through the Lesmos, the Audis particularly, and Robin Frins having been all sideways earlier on in the day. The car carrying on that with Stuart Leonard at the wheel. Number 8 Bentley was going strongly early on. The car of Maxime Toulet, Andy Soucek doing a good job. Vincent Abril, the third driver in that car. But it was a Ferrari session as 72 with the Italian driver Davide Rigon behind the wheel. That getting itself to the top of the times. One or two drivers suffering in the traffic. Mikhail Alyoshin getting caught out by Jelmer Berman, who just come out of the pit lane, getting in the way a little bit, but thankfully no real harm done. And the Ferrari then ended up being lent on, or leaning on, an Audi heading into the Rettifilio chicane. But again, the car survived. Others running, as they have tended to do all day, overly wide coming out of the Lesmos. And a long way down the order, McLaren, but actually the AM Cup car going stronger. This in the hands of Alexander West, Chris Goodwin and Chris Harris. So, tomorrow morning, there will be the three-part qualifying session. Alex Brundle was a man that brought out the full course yellow, but the new system where you take each driver's time, add it together and come up with an average for the grid position is going to give us the fascination of seeing which drivers are quick in their part of the session alone, but then also trying to suss out the grid. So it's going to be an intriguing hour tomorrow morning in these three parts to get all the drivers cycled through. We will see you first thing for qualifying. For now, from John Watson and David Addison from a very hot and sunny Monza, it's goodbye.